Hi, I'm Joe, the sensitivity educator. Today I'd like to talk about jobs that highly sensitive people, HSPs, should avoid. Being HSP doesn't necessarily limit your career options, but there are certain types of work that tend to be especially difficult for sensitive people. So instead of randomly searching, can I do this job or can I do this job, it's more helpful to think from the beginning, I should avoid these types of jobs. So if you're struggling with work right now and you've ever thought, why am I the only one getting so exhausted? Or why can everybody else handle this but I can't? Then this video should give you some clarity. So I hope you'll stay with me until the end. The first type to avoid is customer support. So this includes call centers or chat support. In simple terms, customer support often functions as complaint departments. HSPs are very sensitive to harsh words or aggressive tones. So even if somebody is not attacking you personally, all the intense emotions become stimulation and can wear out HSPs really fast. In complaint situations, customers are already angry or distressed, and listening to anger or sadness all day can be very draining. Even though logically you know they're upset about the product or service and not you, it can still feel quite personal. If it's a call center, some highly sensitive people even start to cry during intense calls. And then even if you pass the call to your supervisor, then you start worrying about the fact that you inconvenienced your boss. And this mental load builds up. So ideally, HSPs should avoid roles that constantly put them at the front line of complaints. So it's best to avoid work that involves talking directly to customers. So retail stores with frequent customer complaints, also medical reception desks or places with large volumes of random customers can also become complaint departments. So it's good to consider these points. The second type to avoid is jobs with quotas. For example, sales positions. This includes things like insurance sales or real estate sales. Why are quota-based jobs difficult for HSPs? It's because when you fail to meet your quota, it can feel extremely draining. If you don't hit your numbers, you may start to feel like you don't belong in that workplace. For example, you might get criticized harshly in daily check-in meetings or get pressured from your supervisor. And even if other coworkers are polite, the tense vibe makes HSPs believe, I can't perform, so I'm worthless. And this mental state can make you feel cornered. And what happens is you start trying harder and harder to sell. But when you're desperate, customers can sense that. And ironically, it becomes harder to sell. And this creates a negative loop. As an HSP, I experienced this firsthand in my 20s. In Canada, I sold natural gas contract door to door. It was 100% commission based, so no sales meant no money for living expense, which was a little extreme. And every time I knocked on people's door, just my heart would pound, and despite the effort, many people slammed the door and I was constantly rejected. So my stress built up and self-confidence dropped, and I had to quit after about a month. So through this painful experience, I realized that high-pressure sales roles are simply not compatible with my HSP nature. So that said, the good news is there are not many jobs that have strict quotas. Like sales-related roles often do. Retail sometimes does as well, like selling certain products. But if there's no direct focus on selling products, quotas are not central. However, in service industries like beauty salons, they may sometimes ask to push certain products or services even if you don't personally believe in them. So this kind of position is also uncomfortable for HSPs. So again, jobs with heavy performance quotas are generally best to stay away from. The third type to avoid is shift-based jobs. Jobs with night shifts, early shifts, or rotating schedules. This is because many HSPs struggle with sleep quality. Since HSPs are sensitive to sound, even if they spend enough time in bed, they may not sleep deeply. And if a workplace has shortage in staff, shift may change widely at the mercy of the employer. Clopen shift is a good example. You may work 3 p.m. to 11 p.m. one day, but you have to work from 6 a.m. the next morning. In this case, by the time you're ready for bed, you might only get 4 to 5 hours of sleep. And when sleep becomes unstable, HSPs can quickly reach mental exhaustion and end up burning out completely. And here's something important. So for HSPs, the level of tolerance changes depending on mental capacity at the time. When you're tired, negative thinking becomes stronger. Because of this, your sensitivity may feel amplified. In this state, if an HSP makes a mistake and gets criticized by their boss, suddenly they feel completely crushed and feel like they can't work there anymore. So ideally, HSPs should also look for work environments where overtime is minimal and daily routine is more predictable and controllable. In that sense, being a nurse is quite demanding. A lot of HSPs work as a nurse, but they struggle with the irregularity. So when you consider jobs, instead of just looking at the job's description, it's quite important to check whether it has shift work elements. And finally, the fourth type is to avoid jobs with high turnover rates. Simply put, if many people keep quitting, there's usually a reason for that. It's likely because of poor relationships or a toxic culture or harsh management styles. Turnover rate is often a visible sign of invisible problems. I once worked at an IT company with high turnover. There was no proper training, no one really taught me anything, and I was given tasks where there was no clear expectations. So I felt kind of invisible and was worried all the time. So for someone who's very independent and can tolerate idle time, maybe they would even feel this is lucky. But for HSPs, even having nothing to do can feel painful because you start thinking, I don't belong here or I'm not useful. It makes you feel like everyone is judging you as incompetent. So when you're choosing a workplace, I suggest checking turnover information if possible. It's hard to determine on your own, but some company review websites provide this type of information. So using that kind of source can help HSPs navigate workplaces and find better job options. Today, I talked about types of jobs that highly sensitive people, HSPs, should avoid. I really feel the work part of life can become a major source of worry for many sensitive people, but I hope today's knowledge gives you a clearer sense of direction. On this Sensopath channel, I share detailed and practical insights created specifically for sensitive people. If this felt helpful, I'd be glad if you stay connected. So this was Joe from Sensopath. Thanks for watching.